Today we're going to be working in my creative commonplace book, and I'm going to do more of the creative side of it today. This is a combination between a commonplace book and like an art journal, junk journal vibe that I've got going on. So it's basically just a mishmash of all sorts of different things, as you can see. And so I'm using it as a space to collect quotes, but also to collect visual interest as well and things that I enjoy. So as you can see, I've got bits of collage here, I've got stickers out and things, and I just wanted to add some things to this journal just in terms of inspiration, I suppose. And I guess it's almost like prepping the pages, because then when I come to adding the quotes and things, I kind of work on top of what's already there. So there's still like blank spaces and things on these pages, but I figured I could get ahead and maybe prep some of these pages here, because they are a little bit on the plainer side. So it's less about covering like a full-on background and more about collecting the bits and pieces that I find interesting as well. So I'm kind of thinking about it from that sort of angle as well. So let me just pop this here so it doesn't keep popping up like that. So as I said, I've got loads of like paper scraps and things, because that's one of my favorite things to do is collage. Figured I could just pick out some pieces that I really like the colors maybe, or the patterns and the textures, and just build out a few different areas that I can then come back to and work on. So like I said, I don't know if this is technically like a prepping of a background. It's more just kind of like collecting the bits of visual interest that I think might look nice on my page, and then I'll be able to come back into it with the words and the writing from other pages. So I'm literally just going to go through all of the bits that I've saved and just see what I might like to use. Like even this, I think it might have been from like a business card or something, and I just save like little scraps because it's kind of like inspiration almost to be able to use things like that within my journal pages. And if you saw the last video that I did, that reminds me actually, where I had my square punch and I added, where is it, I added the sort of cutouts from another journal, and so it just kind of got me thinking about like collecting these little collages of different colors and patterns and things. And so that's what I thought I might want to do on something like this, just to give me a base to then be able to come in and add the writing to, because obviously it's quite a plain page otherwise. And so it's almost a bit like swatching of my collage papers in a way. When I sat down to think about what I wanted to add to the journal next, I decided to use the latest set of my journaling prompts, which I will leave linked down below if you want to check those out. But the elements that we had for this fortnight were swap, mix and swatches. And so I thought, well, why don't I kind of apply the same process of swatching art materials to swatching my little scraps and things. So I figured I would pick out pieces that have a bit more in the way of interest, I suppose, like the visuals and stuff, so that I could kind of keep a little bit of a record almost of the things that I am drawn to. And it's also a great way, I think, just to see how things sit next to one another as well. So you can kind of see the different colours and think, oh, actually, like this particular paper goes really well, or like a colour palette that might be a little bit unexpected. Because I think the thing about collecting all of these different like paper scraps is that you're almost at the mercy of what you can find. So you kind of got to be creative in a way with how things will sit together. And I think it's a really good way of training your eye to look for those little areas of detail and how things will sit together on a page. So I think what I'm going to do is just maybe have like a collection here on the corner, maybe going across into this page as well. And then of course leave some blank space so that I can have some space to still be able to add some writing. I suppose I could still come in with maybe a label or another plain piece of paper. I mean, even tracing paper to create a little bit of ghosting so that I'll be able to write on top of it and not disturb what I've put on the page. That actually, as I'm saying it, that might be the way to do it actually, is to write on some tracing paper or something that's a little bit more translucent, and then have that as like an overlay over the top. So yeah, I guess this journal is just all about experimenting and not being too worried about what the finished result's going to be, because I feel like I've done a lot of journal pages where the goal has been to document something specific or respond to a certain prompt, and you know, you are sitting down and being conscious of, okay, I've got to get from like A to B and have an end destination and a page finished, you know, that you've got in your head of something you want it to look like. And the thing I like about this is that, as you can see with the pages, like the way I'm able to dip in and out of them and add different things, like I'm not worried about what it's going to look like in the end result. I'm just having fun with the process and putting things together, and it's definitely coming together in a lot more of an eclectic style, which is definitely something that I really love. And I think the thing about something like that is it takes time, and you know, you can't rush putting pages like that together. You have to have that process of things coming together slowly and, you know, picking up your paper scraps along the way. And something else that I picked up the other day, as you know, I'm always on the lookout for secondhand books in charity shops, was this Natural History of Britain, Mountains and Moorlands book. And it's seen better days for sure, and I think it's got like wet at some point because there's all sorts of funky stuff going on here. So I'm really not too worried about the fact that I'm going to cut this up to use. The front section is just like text, it's not that interesting. It's got like some photos and things, but the back pages have got some illustrations, and so I'm going to take some of these out because like this one here I thought was really nice, and it's got a mix of like botanical sort of style ones, butterflies, which I think are really nice, and these are a lot smaller than some of the other ones you see in books, so I think they'll be perfect for sort of collecting in this sort of size journal, especially because like some of these where you've got like the blank space, you could easily, you know, write in the gap there. So maybe let's take this one. I think that would be really nice to have as a fussy cut within my journal as well. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely come through and just sort of take out all of the pieces that I'm interested in here and save them from this book. Like even this piece here I really like. And speaking of old books, I have been dipping in and out of this older book that I've been working on, and I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera. I'm hoping not, but I did some text on the cover here and I really didn't like it, and I didn't like it to the point where I had to like put it on a shelf and not look at it for a good period of time till I came back and covered it again with the paint. So the cover's back to looking like this. It did have some text on it. I'm just going to keep it like this for now because I really didn't like what I did. And so that kind of put me off from working on the book. I don't know if you've ever had that where you do something to your project and you just think, I actually can't like come back to that at the moment. So I've been dipping in and out of it, like I said, and just doing bits of collage. So there's not too much that's changed here, but what I've done is, I think on most pages now there's like some collage happening. So I've started setting up, I've just been adding little bits and pieces here and there onto the pages. And so I'm pretty much like set up in terms of having collage on most of these pages now, or just like I've sort of set up the base of like how I want the page to kind of look, and I'm thinking I'm going to go for this sort of thing on quite a few of the pages where I've set this up. So this is kind of like the journaling space, and then I'm going to leave around the edge here and let the book sort of shine through. So you can see it sort of here as well, where I've concentrated everything on this area and then left this. So yeah, I've done this off camera just because I was having one of those moments with this book where I really wasn't sure where it was going. I'm going to probably put some tracing paper behind here for this cutout element, but again, I've just done the collage where I've left bits of it exposed, and here as well, and I figured I could just leave some of the images just like full page and not need to do like a huge amount to them. Same with this one here where I've left this little chap here, the owl, and then I've come in on this side, but again not covered like the whole page where I did it with the pages at the start. But again, you can still kind of see obviously the book pages, so I'm thinking I might come through it with some coffee maybe, but I am really enjoying the pages more where it's like collagey and you can see that it's still the book, but I sort of have added my bits on top, rather than something like this where it's more like full page, not as keen on. So, you know, this book has definitely been a sort of learning and experimenting phase as well, in terms of how I want my pages to be set up, because I definitely prefer this sort of style where you can see the actual book pages and sort of leaning into it that way. So yeah, that's been really interesting, but I have done that just like off camera, just experimenting with different things. So I just thought I'd show you a little bit of an update of where things are. Like, see here, I've just like added bits to it, so it's not like covering everything up necessarily. So I mean, these are probably missing maybe like coffee, some mark making, and then some text. So not like a huge amount to go. So maybe I'll do a session sort of like finishing this off a bit more. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this altered book. So I'll leave the playlist link down below if you want to see any of the videos from this altered book series. And I think I'm going to leave the cover alone because I've clearly learnt my lesson that I didn't want anything on this space here, and I'll just leave the image, I think, on the cover, and there's nothing on the back here. So yeah, that's that book. And so let's maybe add some of these illustrations to this commonplace book. So this was definitely one that I saw and I thought would look really nice cut out onto this page. So I'm not going to be too fussy with like this bit in the middle, because that's, quite frankly, that's a little bit much. Even by my standards of fussy cutting, I can't be bothered with all that. So we'll leave that bit alone, but I will come around the edges of this. I just really liked, I think, the shape and the colours of this. So I guess I thought that it would pop on a page, but without looking too in your face, I suppose. So let's just go around the edges of this. And I think if I pop it somewhere like this, I can get away with the fact that I've not cut out that bit in the middle, because it kind of blends in a little bit with the background that is already on the page there. So let's just add some glue to the back of this and pop it in. And I think that will just help to give a focal point to this page, like a bit of a center to work the text and the other elements around it, rather than just having them like sort of floating on the page almost. So let's maybe go for, if I move it up here slightly, actually, then it kind of bridges the gap here with this piece is what I'm thinking. So that way it kind of brings them together a little bit, if you kind of see what I mean. It sort of bridges that gap there. And then maybe let's add a little bit of colour just with some mark making. This is honestly just really random, just some little doodles and scribbles and things, but I think just with the purple there, this colour will complement nicely on the page. Just give it a little pop of something going on. Not like a huge amount, I don't want to take over, but just it like sort of pulls out that colour that we've got going on there in the centre of the flower and helps to carry that in places throughout the rest of the page. So we've got this area here for text, I'm thinking, and then obviously we've got over here as well. This space is probably lending itself to some like bold lettering, I think. Okay, so I've just added a few extra little bits of colour and things like that with a stamp there, and I think what I'm going to do is come in with my favourite Tombow brush pen, and I'm going to letter collect, I think, because that was the theme of the newsletter prompts that I was using, which I'll link down below if you want to check those out, because I think as well that sums up nicely what I've done here by collecting all of these bits of visual interest, and it kind of themes the page in a way, because I mean my Creative Commonplace book is not organized in the slightest. It's just a random mishmash of things, and that's what I think love about it so much, is that there's no kind of pressure to have those strict, like it has to be this and not that, and things being in certain places. But I think sort of collect is a good summary for this, so I'm just thinking this is the perfect place to do that. So I think that contrasts enough with everything else that I've got on the page and still leaves a little bit of space in terms of coming in and adding the actual writing with quotes and things. So as I've been doing throughout this book, I've been going back and forth, so I'm sure that I will come across something that will be perfect to add in as a quote, or as you know, a little note here as I've done. So I've just sort of been like squeezing them in the different places that I have space for them, either written down or I mean even like here and on this other page where I've done more of a cut and paste with some found phrases. So I've now got another page here where I mean there still might be some visual parts I need to do to this, but I think this is kind of set up quite nicely as a way of adding text. So I'm imagining writing along here and then there's space on this part as well. So it could be nice to do maybe something going this way with white pen. So I think I've got two spaces here that I can do the writing onto, and maybe even as I was mentioning earlier, where potentially this could be even like a piece of tracing paper laid over the top so that you still have all of this interest, but then you can have something written over the top of it. I don't know, but that's kind of the fun of working in a book like this, is that I don't come to it with any sort of plan of what I'm going to do, because this was not what I thought this was going to turn out like. But I think I really enjoy all of the mix of the texture and the patterns and the colours that are going on and the general sort of theme that I've set up for this page. I hope you enjoyed joining me for this more of like a background page setup and working on the visuals and the creative side of the Creative Commonplace book. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.